So the billing centers are a grouping that represents hierarchical allocation of cost, right? So they're very good for a kind of business structure, top down from all of your costs down to, you know, a department or a specific service or a specific cost center. And you'll see in a minute, well, in fact, I'll flick over. So this is an example where billing centers, all of your spend at the top could be split out by different dimensions. Okay, so, and you can build these up to 10 layers deep, I think, within the platform. But we often encourage customers to keep it a little bit simpler than that, right? Because remember, if I've got an environment tag or a project tag or an application tag, I don't need to create any of these structures because I could go into business function and I could then apply the tag, right? So it would be then all of my HR by app or by project or by environment, right? So think of these things as intersections where you've got your billing center structure and then you've got your tags and your rule-based dimensions that you can lay over the top to get the view that you need of that cost. Now, the great thing about these is, of course, you can replicate some sort of financial structure or hierarchy, but as we saw when we did our IAM module, I can assign users to billing centers. So once I've started to put the costs in these buckets, if I'm a user that should only have access to HR or IT or whatever it might be on the slide here, then my individual users or via groups and single sign-on, I could only see that spend. And there are a ton of use cases for that, right? So again, best practice is, well, do you really need to kind of limit access to that data? Is it that important? But there are lots of occasions where regulations or the introduction of contractors and other things might mean that you're going to want to physically separate this. And of course, when we come to the policies and recommendations, if I only see the, you know, cost savings for the HR team and applications that I manage, then I'm far more informed, right? I'm not wading through all of the other cost data here and recommendations in order to find what I need. So it's really, really, really useful structure. Adds a layer of business context. It can, as we'll see in a minute, be based on a tagging strategy. It could be based on a tagging strategy at resource level, at account level, in resource groups, or whatever it might be. But lots of customers will build this structure from external sources as well. So we could just build it out from a CSV file. We could build it from a CMDB. We could build it from another system of record. Again, all of these things can be done programmatically. But in the UI, we can do account allocation. So I can say all of the costs in this account go to engineering and this account go to marketing. I can do the same, of course, for subscriptions and for projects. So when we talk about cloud account name, those terms are interchangeable across the major vendors for the subscription and project in Google. And I can allocate by tag as well. So those tags that we created, the custom tags, I can say cost center equals 1, 2, 3, 4 goes into this particular billing center, and you can use that for the distribution of costs. Quite straightforward. But the difference between this and other allocation structures is you only allocate once, right? There's a finance set, which is the total bill that you've ingested, and you allocate that cost to a billing center. You don't allocate it twice. And there are other constructs, right? So this is one view of your cost, one allocation of the cost. We'll look at rule-based dimensions, and that's, you know, literally the next topic, where I could slice my costs in a different way by department, by environment, by cost center, you know, whatever. So you can do it multiple ways, but each way that you do it is only allocating costs once to an area. There's no kind of overlap or double count. Okay, just worth mentioning here, we've got the cloud and billing center menu, which gives you a list of billing center constructs, right? So this is our hierarchical representation of cost. When I go into a billing center, so I go into engineering, I get a set of dashboards, okay? Now, they are exactly the same as the dashboard capability that I've got at this top level, but they are only for my billing center engineering or my billing center marketing or whatever, right? So it's a segmentation of cost and a reporting capability for whoever has access to that. But if I've got access to more than one billing center, or all of the cloud costs, then I use this top level view, okay, which will see basically everything that I have access to, right? Everything that I've got access to at the top here, dashboards and cloud, but I might be a user, or I might just want to go in and do some reporting specifically for engineering, then I've got a set of dashboards that exist at the billing center level as well. So under the billing centers here, then we have, again, billing centers under engineering, and here we've just got our development teams that are built out. Okay, so this is your hierarchical structure. At the top level, you will have this unallocated bucket. All right, so you're going to see what spend is in here. Again, great KPI. It's a great one to run a policy potentially for, to say, you know, what is the unallocated cost as a percentage of total spend? You could set, you know, an alert around that or whatever you wanted to do. You'll see that you can also go look back and forward in time from the allocation of cost here. So I can scroll through, you know, into last year or whatever I want to do with the billing center hierarchy. And in some cases, we did have some shared cost in the platform, but it looks like it's gone. You can do a list view as well and start to sort it by cost or date or whatever you want to do. And in each case, there's also a description for the billing center if that's populated as well. You'll also see, remember we looked at the kind of cloud vendors that we had in the platform when we categorize spend by cloud vendor, they will appear on the list here as well, right? So which cloud vendors are allocated to any individual billing center. I think if we go back a little bit in time, you can see actually shared costs are being pushed into these billing centers as well, okay, because we've actually taken them out of this billing center and allocated them. We'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. And then lastly, there's a normalization kind of categorization of services, right? So we know that Amazon and Google and Microsoft refer to their services by different names. Amazon is the king of three-letter acronyms for all of their services, and that isn't necessarily meaningful for a non-technical audience. Okay, so Flexera, and we'll look at this again in dashboards, categorizes those automatically into compute storage network database. So when you're looking at this billing center view, and you'll see it in other reports as well, this is the categorization you see, because potentially there's a whole ton of multi-cloud services in any one billing center. Yeah, and so this kind of gives you an idea of whether it's compute storage network or. Now, the other thing that billing centers is really important for is when we start to look at some of our policies and we think about budgeting, forecasting, anomaly detection, those kind of things, we can actually do them in a billing center boundary, right? So we could say, actually, even though my engineering has got, you know, shared costs in it and Google spend and Azure and, you know, spend or whatever cloud vendors you've injected, I can set a budget at the billing center level, independent of the cloud vendor and the cloud vendor accounts, to say engineering has 100 grand a month. Tell me if it's going to exceed that or when it's projected to exceed that. So you can imagine if I'm allocating some cost here to engineering, we're going to use some allocation rules here. Okay, so here we can see for the engineering billing center, wow, there's a ton of AWS accounts that have been allocated and some Azure subscriptions. All right, and then at the bottom of the list, there's some tag-based allocation going on as well. Okay, so we're going to do this in an exercise, but effectively, you build out your billing center hierarchy. It's as simple as going in to the UI and creating the name of the billing center that you want to build. Again, can all be done programmatically and automatically if you want it to. And then you're building a set of rules, right? So you're going in, creating a rule that will say, okay, I want to move costs into this billing center based on a tagging strategy, based on the fact that I just want to go manually in and pick the accounts because I know based on their name or whatever it might be, or you can use multiple tags and the UI will also do resource groups. If it's a cost, like let's say AWS premium support, right? It's the common example. So
right, yeah,
support comes in as a single line item. In fact, you can't tag it anyway, and it typically will get charged to the master account, right? The way to deal with that would be to put that in something like a shared cost bucket. We'll talk more detail in terms of what we can then do, but we have some policies that will take that shared cost and distribute it across the other billing centers on a way of your choosing. But for other services, we do something with some of our customers on a usage basis. So some of the security services come into the cloud bill as a single line, right? And you're like, well, who used that? Because if I try and peanut butter spread it across everybody and they're not using it, they're going to get pretty upset. And so we can actually take in other sources of data around who are using certain services and do a usage-based allocation. Right? But those are kind of customizations using the policy engine to do that. Yeah, so I was just going to show you quickly the rules, right? So I'll go in, I'll create a rule. I can choose, you know, is it an account, a tag-based allocation, a resource group, and you then go, let's say, okay, I'm going to do an account. We'll go in, we'll pick which vendor, we'll pick which account, you know, or subscription it's going to be, and we'll decide where that gets allocated to, or maybe we create a new billing center in the UI. All right, so it's dead simple to do in the UI, but again, when you get to scale, right, we have customers with in excess of 3,000 accounts, subscriptions, and projects. You aren't going to be doing this in the UI, or if you are, that's not a good use of your time, right? So we typically will produce policies that will read in an account tagging strategy or read in allocations from other systems of record and build this structure out and manage it. But for simple, you know, use cases, customers, if around $1 million or whatever that may have 5, 10, 20 accounts, then it's simple to build out a separate set of rules in the UI.